What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pick Swap podcast. It's the end of finals week for us. It's been a long time coming for this semester, but Sean and I are done after today. So, Sean, how you feeling after all this work?
Yeah, definitely relieved to have that over. I'm actually heading to the Sixers game tomorrow to watch the Heat game in person, so I'm hyped up for
Nice.
that. And yeah, moving on, Sixers world only.
Yeah, man. It's nice to get that off your back, and then we kind of had to deal with this, which has been a complete roller coaster. But nonetheless, we're still surviving. We're getting through. The Sixers took a brutal loss last night. Just like it was
Yeah,
hard to watch.
yeah, definitely. It looked like they didn't show up pretty much at all, and there were no signs of life in the offense. The late scratch from Embiid and Curry, it was definitely a little weird with that. Definitely didn't feel like it was kind of like a normal rest day. And my frustrations with it were, first off, like going into the day in the game, I was totally fine with like that being an Embiid rest day. When we think about have the Heat Wednesday, the Nets Thursday, like a big stretch coming up, which like that to me is like I'm totally fine with him not playing. That should not be decided like literally minutes before tip off, and that was just such like a late scratch that felt like it threw everything off. The players seemed like they were also unaware of it till right before. So even that, not a real excuse. And to give credit to the Grizzlies, I do think they are a better team than they've been given credit so far. And especially without Ja, have been putting on some performances. So disappointing to see, but shout out them.
Yeah, I was like that was kind of what I was saying, and I loved Kyle Anderson. He's like one of my favorite players in the NBA for like
Dylan Brooks, I like a lot too.
Dylan Brooks is really good. I'm a UCLA guy, Kyle Anderson. So that was during like my deep obsession with the UCLA Bruins, like early 2010s. He was great, but he's another guy that like I love on that team. They have a lot of guys that are really enjoyable to watch play, and then even without John Morant, um, they've been playing really well. So I guess
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Credit to them, but the Sixers look like shit,
hmm
and no one played well. Maxey played well, but
Charles
like
Bassey. I would
Charles
like to give
Bassey, yeah.
Bassey some love. I mean, for the most part, garbage time minutes, and the game never was really in doubt. But there is some raw flashes there, and you see the size on him. He really does seem to have a genuine like skill as a shot blocker, which is cool to see. And he just does everything you kind of look for in a backup center. He rolls, he screens, blocks shots, goes up and rebounds the ball. Long, athletic, great energy, great work rate. There is a lot to like in Bassey, and I'm curious to see kind of the development of him. I do feel like this is a shot to the B-ball Paul minutes down the line. And I think if Bassey plays his cards right and continues to show this kind of progress, that he could hammer down that long-term backup position.
Yeah, he like every time that he's gotten like more than a couple minutes at a time, he looks really like solid. And
hmm
again, as a backup center, that's really all you ask. He's like he has a really good feel in the pick and roll that I don't think either
hmm
one of Embiid or Drummond has. Um, and Paul Reed either, but like I think they're also grooming Paul Reed to be a four. It seems like I don't know that they ever really loved him as a small five, but I don't know. It's hard to tell, but it definitely seems like Bassey is the next up. It's Embiid, Drummond, and then Bassey. So I wonder if they stick with that going into next season if they see enough from him.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely going to be his opportunity. It's been kind of a strange like sequence of events for Bassey's whole time here. When we think about Sixers buying into the second round to get that pick, taking him with the 53rd overall pick, and then just the whole contract situation. Didn't play summer league. Agreed on kind of a guaranteed deal rather than like a two-way, or it's just a unique path for a second round pick, really. But the kid is betting on himself, and it seems to be paying out so far. And really, like this is who this guy is. Like when you look back to his college, his high school tape. Maxie talks about how growing up in high school, how Bassey was the number one, he was the number two in Texas getting recruited. So he's known him for a long time, which is cool. And I mean, he is flourishing into a guy that I do see as NBA potential.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's nice to see. And I guess in a game like that, a silver lining is that Charles Bassey is able to produce in some sort of way, and he's showing flashes of being a solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, there wasn't too much. Maxey played
Wrong guy.
well. Dude, that setback three, sidestep three hit
Mm-hmm.
earlier in the game. Those it's nice on nights like that when it's kind of like giving the keys to him a little bit, and he's able to deepen, reach into his bag like that, because he has it. It'll be nice, hopefully, as that progresses. We see that with when this team is at full strength. But what do you see as like the issue? Because Embiid doesn't play. Maxey has another good night, scoring wise. He's being aggressive. He's getting to the rim, and then Embiid comes back and he's back to kind of just being a passive, third scorer.
Yeah, it's really tough kind of how to work that in. And it's hard. There basketball more than most sports. There's kind of not empty statistics, but there's guys that can like do well without it translating to team success, and it's tough to kind of bottle that in a way that to make sure this is going to contributing because it should be that points are points, but in a way it doesn't always translate that way. And I see this a lot when I look at guys like kind of like the Kevin Porter Juniors and the I used to think this about James Harden. He's changed up, but the hit in his early Rockets days kind of the same way where it was kind of like too much reliance. And I really want to see, it's disappointing to see kind of the Maxey balling out without kind of with the team losing and without Embiid. And then there just has to be some sort of kind of chemistry built. And I think really the only way that it is to do that is kind of keep working at it, keep putting sets in place, letting these guys play together as much as possible. And as much as it is nice to see him like run with the second unit, and I think he absolutely should do this for stretches of game, like we have to work through what him and Embiid can do. And until they can kind of get that down, like that really caps off kind of the potential for this team. So there are absolutely growing pains. He's still 21 years old. He's still in the second year in the league. He's got a long ways to go, but I mean, he's so far ahead of kind of the trajectory we've expected at this point that take a little pressure off. He will get there.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Maxey at all. It honestly seems to fall more on, you know, the circumstance and like the way that they're implemented into the game plan.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to know specifically what that is, but like you can't run away from using them to help each other. And like, it's not everything doesn't have to go through Embiid. Obviously, he's going to dominate and demand the ball, which he absolutely should and deserves to. But when it's time to take pressure off him and the defense is doing everything they can, I feel like Maxey is a reliable option there. And we definitely want to talk about Tobias Harris and how he's been a lack of an option in that sense. But like I feel like there hasn't been that connection. And again, like you said, I think it's going to take a little bit. It's going to be growing pains. They've only played what, like 15 games together total,
Yeah.
like
Only a
this
handful.
season.
Hmm.
So like not many. And that's not enough for like a good enough sample size to really understand how they play together. But the trend of whenever Embiid's out, he plays well. It mirrors, I don't want to say it, but it mirrors when Embiid was out, Simmons played well. And to me, it's not an Embiid thing or a Maxey thing or a Simmons thing. It's like the scheme of, okay, they're just like
Yeah.
handing the ball over and these guys get extra shots. So I guess that's the way it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely like the biggest factor in this. And I mean, Embiid, like it's tough getting the usage out of him. Like he's so good at so many things, but like we've talked about so much is there's always the hero ball, give it to Embiid and watch. And with Maxey specifically, like the burst he has and his finishing package, especially, like opens things up that like there has to be more active sets for both of them. Like the more the
Yeah.
screen and rolls, the pick and pops, the just any type of kind of just getting the ball, dribble handoff, got things that like can change up the look, like the him taking it around the corner and attacking the basket, just like the burst he has. It's the legitimate NBA skill that like opens things up, and using that is something that like nobody else on this roster has. Like when we look at Curry coming off the dribble handoff, which is really the only guy they run active sets with Embiid with is Curry, and it's like there's no burst to Curry's game. It's like you're setting up a shot for one of these guys. You're really the pick and pop with Embiid and Curry. All it is just setting up a jumper for one of these guys. Like if we can bring in like the just pick and drive to the basket, which Maxey can do as long as you screen right and set this up right, create the spacing right. That's absolutely free points if you're getting him going to the basket on a regular basis. And that goes a super long way in just getting Maxey going, getting him easy buckets. And that's what you do to create chances for your good players. So that's something I absolutely want to see more in the offense is some Maxey dribble handoffs. And I think that could go a long way to solving a lot of kind of the usage issues between both of them.
Yeah, and one thing I would like an improvement I would like to see from Embiid is to roll more.
For sure. For
Very
sure.
rarely do we see an Embiid pick and roll where both players end up going to the basket. And I know he's not the vertical threat of a lot of like the bigs. Like if you think of like Clint Capella or guys of that nature that
Mhm.
just throw it up and give him a chance, but he's very skilled in that area. He has great touch. The short roll is something I think they should implement, which they do. Which he gets to that jump shot spot, which he's very good at, obviously. But like just getting to the rim and we talked a lot about earlier a couple of weeks ago how important it is to get Embiid easy buckets because of how often the defense centers in on him and makes life hard for him. Getting him a couple layups, dunks, or even situations where the defense collapse and he kicks out to a shooter, like that's all great chemistry building. That's all great momentum building. And if you get your best players easy buckets, those tougher buckets are easier to get when it seems once you're in a rhythm. So there's a lot of different things I would like to see them do, but that is a great point. I would love to see a lot more like downhill play from the two
Yeah.
of those guys.
Yeah, and to bring up the Grizzlies again, like I think the Grizzlies did an excellent job of that last night, particularly with Jaren Jackson. And like there was one set in particular they ran where it was just Kyle Anderson cutting middle of the lane. They set a back screen for Jaren Jackson, a little tap pass from Kyle Anderson, just an easy dunk.
Yeah.
And it was one of those just I was like, wow, that was ridiculously easy. Just like the execution of that and just that turns out for one of their better players for how the roster is right now, just a free dunk is like it was a perfectly run set. So there does need to be just like an injection of creativity that like you are seeing with other games. And I mean, there's not a lot of positive takeaways to take from the Grizzlies game. So I would like to talk the Warriors game a little bit since
I'd love
it
to.
is crazy that we kind of go from the roller coaster of what I would consider the best game of the season to kind of such a letdown. But I am super happy with what we saw in the Warriors game. And frankly, the commitment to defense, I think, is something that we haven't seen all year with this team. And holding the Warriors to a season low 93 points is absurd. They were not letting the Steph record happen that night, which I'm all about. And just the usage of Matisse was a cool unlocking that kind of it was cool to see Doc Rivers fully break that out. So what were your thoughts on the Warriors game?
Yeah, dude, I that was definitely like the most exciting and enjoyable game I think so far this year. And
Yeah.
um, this team struggles with an identity a lot of the time. I don't think they know what they're good at yet.
Mhm.
Um, which happens in the mess that's happened and with everything that's gone on. Like it's hard to exactly figure it out right away, but they settled in and were the best defense I've seen from this team all year. And I mean, the catalyst being Matisse Thybulle and how exciting that game was for him. But then Embiid, dude, like Embiid, I as much as I love and I think Matisse deserves all the credit in the world for the way he guarded Steph. I think he did it better than anyone else has in a long time. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to think about another player struggling as much as or another player holding Steph the way that or Thybulle was able to hold him. But Embiid, especially in the second half when things got close, he was the one sprinting out, hedging that screen, making that part of his life difficult because he gets so open on those, dribble handoffs, screen handoffs, all that kind of stuff. Like with Looney and Draymond Green, they get the ball in his hand with the defender stuck. Thibault is great at that, but Embiid's ability to sprint to the perimeter, hang with Curry, and then get back to his man, I think it was an understated part of that. So just like it goes to show how great Embiid is on both sides of the floor. I thought they did a great job not relying on him as the sole contributor offensively. He had a great game. And I thought that was a great Embiid game, not because he scored 40, but because he did everything right. And he also was, the second best defensive player on the floor as well. So it's just a super fun game all in all. But Matisse Thybulle, man, just so good.
Yeah, and I think that's been an underrated part of Embiid's game throughout his whole
Yeah.
career, but especially this season, and just in taking that kind of defensive ownership, anchoring a defense. And honestly, I don't think there's another player in the NBA that is tasked with as much on his plate as Joel Embiid. When we think about, there are not a lot of guys counted on to be the number one option on offense and the tone setter anchor on defense. Like that is really hard to do, and the way he's been able to do this and still just kind of show that energy is super impressive. And I mean, I've said for a while how I really thought the defense would stick just because I believed in him and being that anchor. And like we are seeing that to an extent. There's no it blows my mind. Like there's no wing that can do what Embiid does. Like the value that he brings in just changing. There's a ton of plays throughout the game that they don't go on the stat sheet, but you see he's gotten way better at just like contesting without fouling, without blocking, and they cause misses. And that's the same thing in the end of the bottom line is you're forcing
Yeah.
guys to miss. So there's been a lot that hasn't showed up on the stat sheet, and Embiid's done tremendous at this. In the Warriors game specifically, I totally agree. I think there was an added emphasis on closing out, especially with Curry on the perimeter, and there were ones that like way more so than usual. And I'm sure the record played
Yeah.
a role in this, but you
Yeah.
saw him kind of aggressively closing out, and I was happy to see that. We haven't seen that type of commitment to defense from the team as a whole all year, and it was cool. Holding the Warriors to 20 points in the fourth quarter is insane, and also they were prepared offensively too. This Warriors defense has been tremendous this year, and really like kind of a very high basketball IQ tactic from Steve Kerr with what they're doing defensively when they're just kind of shifting looks, going from a zone to a man-to-man to a box one, triangle and two, all these little just crazy switches that are, it's just kind of the versatility that they're showing. And it's very like interesting to watch and cool that the Sixers were prepared for that. And I mean, they executed, and I do think that was the best game of the season so far.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't expect that much coming in. Honestly, I thought, you know, I was prepared to see Steph Curry make 10 threes. I was prepared for them to lose pretty badly, honestly. But they did surprise me on both ends of the floor. And like we said, like let's just, I mean, Thybulle was the first player in Steph's career to block two jumpers or more than one jumper of his in a game. Like,
Hmm.
first of all, crazy stat for Steph. Just the fact that he hasn't ever had two jumpers blocked in one game by the same person, like the same defender. And then for Matisse to go out, and it was really, I think the best part about that was like, and probably what helped them the most was the fact that, Thybulle started, and the clear role for him that night was nothing more than to do everything you can defensively to stop Steph Curry. And like,
Hmm.
that's a tall task. Like seriously, arguably one of like probably a top 5 offensive player that's ever touched the basketball. Like let's be honest, he does everything that happens. All 5 defenders have to be aware of where he is at all times, and just to ease that pressure of the other players, for Matisse to just stay glued to him hip to hip all night, and then be able to force bad shots, block jumpers, take the ball out of his hands, make it difficult for him to get the ball into his hands. You completely take out him, what do you have, 18 points total? When
Hmm.
everything on the offense is running through Steph Curry and he finishes with 18 points, like crazy, just crazy from him. And I know we've been hard on Matisse. He's been disappointing in ways in terms of his progression offensively, but when you see that there's that ability to just take that guy out of the game. So it was exciting for him as well. And he did make a pair of 3-pointers.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the time that Matisse guarded Curry, he scored 8 points, had 3 turnovers, was 2-11 from the field, which is 18.2%, and 1 of 9 from three, which is
Wow.
11.1%, which is absurd. And I mean, the most difficult part about guarding Steph Curry is like when you really lock up a guy, it's like he passes it away, and it's like that's the relief. That's honestly where Curry's most dangerous, and like
Yeah.
the off ball movement from him is insane, and that's where he makes his money, where he is one of the best of all time. But you just saw like the laser focus from Matisse to just be locked in on Steph Curry and Steph Curry only. And like the one block where he fought over the screen, got it from behind, was absolutely crazy. And that's like these type of the wingspan that you have in making those type of plays is insane. But he said how he blacked out just kind of focusing on Curry. What couldn't even really
Yeah.
tell what was going on in the game, which I also thought was cool afterward. But he really did just do a great job lasering in and being all over where Steph needed, and that's difficult to do. So I also just love the matching the minutes with Steph Curry too. I thought that was a awesome move
Yeah.
from Doc, and an overall very good coaching performance from Doc. There were adjustments on the fly. There were some rotational shifts, and the Matisse was the most notable. Of course, he got the start, and I just love the kind of the mindset of just we're putting our best on your best, and we're seeing if that's good enough. Like there is no just kind of like let's try Danny Green for 3 minutes, or let's try mix it. Let's see what Maxey can do for a couple. It was just purely like Thybulle is our best chance of you, and we are keeping him on it. And he did play through some legitimate foul trouble. Like he had 4 fouls pretty early on in that, and Doc's still like sticking with his guns. Like as long as he's there, we're gonna use him. And Matisse battled through, and it worked. So I was very encouraged by that.
Yeah. I think to quickly to that point, I think one of the like unfounded traditions in basketball is like a player gets a couple fouls early and you just immediately take him out. Like Matisse is gonna get fouls playing against Steph Curry. Like
Yeah.
the defense, the type of defense that he plays, the way that Steph Curry is, like you're almost bound to catch yourself in a spot where you shouldn't be at times. Like if you're guarding Steph Curry. I loved that there wasn't the immediate panic because he had 3 in the first half, and the
Mhm.
announcers were even talking about it like, "Oh, Doc's, not taking him out here. I don't know." What are you gonna do? Would you like either way? He's on the bench. You either
Yeah.
let him play through and see if he stays for 4 more or 3 more, whatever it is, like rather than take him out right away. So I thought that was a great move by Doc to give him credit there. Aside from that, like Embiid had 26, Maxey had 10, I think. Yeah. or Curry had 10, Maxey had 14, Harris had 16, Milton had 10. So
Mhm.
there's a lot to talk about here, and like I think we're probably going to talk a lot about Tobias, so I think we should maybe just pop right into that because it's
Mhm.
just been really brutal to watch him play recently. It's been Tobias isn't always the most like he's never the most flashy. He doesn't do anything crazy really ever. So it's easy for him to go unnoticed. But then when the things that he's doing that normally like are kind of clunky but they work, when they don't work, it makes like hell for this team. And they've just been really fiending for a second option to prove themselves, and Tobias Harris hasn't.
Yeah. It's been very quiet on Tobias end, and the Grizzlies game was another example of it for me. Like this is the moments that it's like now you're the guy. Like step up,
Yep.
make it happen. And I mean, Tobias isn't perfect by any means. There and like it's so hard. Like I want to separate the like I have no hate for Tobias. He's a
Yeah.
tremendous guy, tremendous person, but you're just simply not good enough at basketball for what the Sixers are asking you to do. And he's never been kind of the stretch four that we've hoped for and or imagined or kind of expected when we got him. He played some of the best basketball of his career, both the right before we traded for him, right when we got him last year. Even there's been some great moments, but it just kind of hasn't been that way this year. And I think the best asset that he's kind of shown to this team is running with the second unit a little bit and being just the consistent points there. But that hurts that this is your number two option on the team, number two paid guy, the guy that really is the duo with Embiid for as the team currently stands, and you're just not getting enough. So I don't really have an answer to how to fix it or anything other than just play better Tobias. But what are you seeing from him?
Yeah, it's like especially early on, it was a lot of the his old habits of just dribbling too much and trying to create
Hmm.
too much, and I think there's like a level of him feeling the pressure of having to try to do more, having to try to be more than what he is. But I think the biggest problem and like a really like spirit crushing realization that I think a lot of Sixers fans are coming to is that like he's not gonna be probably anything more than he is. He's a very good player. I think he's a very good player. I
Hmm.
think a lot of us were hoping that he would get, reach another level. I think Tobias is what Tobias is, and unfortunately with this team, I don't think that what Tobias is gonna be enough. Um, I think their best option is to try to move him at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that just purely from a fit standpoint. And the way I'm kind of looking at this is the Sixers are already on the verge of some drastic like organizational changes. We talk about the Simmons trade looming. We see that heating up. The rumors are always swirling. Like we need to solely focus on getting guys that optimize Joel Embiid. Embiid's 27 years old. He's well in his prime. We've already wasted some tremendous years from him. And it's just like this needs to be the last ditch effort to build a team that fully optimizes what he can do. And Tobias Harris is not that guy. He's there's been a ton of moments this year where they've kind of been double posted up for like I'd say like for a team that just like lives in the mid range and post, like we just have so much of that going on, and uh, obviously the Simmons and the Al Horford, all that has kind of watered out, but Tobias Harris is still there doing it, and it's like you can either be the stretch four that like play that position, which we all just preached about, like play you with the four, like you're not a three, get Horford out of here. It's like we keep kicking guys, and we're still having the same kind of problem, and at the same time, you're looking at a common denominator like. Harris shoots like 75% of his shots within 2 point. And they've been up the last 2 years. Last year was 77.5, which is absurd from inside the arc for a guy that we need to be chucking up shots like that. And just from like a frustration standpoint, statistically, you're a very good 3 point shooter. Like we shouldn't be begging guys who are above average 3 point shooters to shoot the ball. Like it should be one of those things. He's been near 40%, over 40% for a couple years in his career, and it's some of it is just like I wish we could mold you into this, but it's not. Like I can't be mad at Tobias
Yeah.
Harris for just being Tobias Harris. Like at the end of the day, that's kind of his player. And he's such like a unique, like he's a very skilled player, but just not at all what I'm hoping for, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is. And kind of what I was alluding there was like I like Tobias. I think Tobias is a very good player. I think that he is underappreciated in some ways. I think that his play style just first of all is a little bit old fashioned.
For
I
sure.
think that like I think I said this a while ago. Like he would have been awesome in like 2006. He would have been awesome, like all-star level player. Like, but he just doesn't have the athleticism. as a 4 as a lot of these other guys do. Like, he doesn't have the floor spacing. Like, it would help if he had one or the other. Like, if he was the player that he is, but was, like, really athletic and quick and get up at the rim and, contest shots, throw lobs too, that'd be great. But if he wasn't that, if he could shoot the 3, it might help, like, a little bit more. So, I don't know. I mean, he gets paid so much.
Right.
He really does, and, like, if you're the Sixers, like, you're looking at this, I don't know if he's ever gonna be anything that's gonna help you to win a championship or what you could get. I saw someone earlier say, like, we had to stop talking about Tobias trade options. The other stuff that's out there isn't gonna be as good. Like, his value isn't even as good as him. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's true. I think there is value out there to get, just based on fit. And even if it gives you some financial liberty going into
Yeah.
next offseason, that's a win too. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, you have a chance at a couple free agents. You give Daryl Morey some money because he had an offseason where he didn't have a lot of money. Like, the thing with Morey is I do not think that he's going to let this go through without giving them a legitimate chance over this year and next year. What is going to need to happen is like a fire sale rebuild, like drop a bomb in, one person's safe, everything else is out. Like, we're doing everything we can to make a good roster, and like it seems like that might be what happens later this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear Joel Embiid is that one person. Like
Well,
every
yes, yeah,
decision should be rocked around what makes him better and makes a team around him better. And the thing that keeps kind of bouncing around in my mind when I think Tobias, and the difference between like, well, there's a lot of difference between the Simmons and Tobias situation, but
yeah,
just from like a trade aspect is there are still teams out there that can talk themselves into like Ben Simmons is the missing piece that like our team needs. Like Dame Lillard somehow has his mind twisted that that's what's
yeah.
missing in Portland. And A, that's just simply not enough for what's going on there. But B, like there is the value with Simmons of like a look at the potential this guy has. He's still young. Toby's 29 years old. He's he is who he is at this point. You can't like I just said, like you know what you're getting, know what you're expecting. What that is not like a super. He's yet to make an all-star. He probably never will. He got a lot of like empty stat kind of categories in a way. And the thing that keeps kind of connecting in my mind and that I do see kind of making sense is some sort of trade with the Kings. Because you talk about like they've been trying to package the Buddy Hield, the Marvin Bagley, Harrison Barnes. I feel like there's some sort of package that could be worth it there. And like frankly, a flip for Tobias Harris for Buddy Hield, like in a vacuum, does that look great? Absolutely not. But when we think about how much better fit like a Buddy Hield could be on the Sixers team than Toby is, like that's worth it, and that's like worth looking into. Absolutely. And I mean, so much. There's so many moving parts around this team right now because like if there are these two deals where they trade Toby and they trade Simmons, like they have to gel to like a cohesive roster in the end of it. So that it's tough to like kind of picture what you're looking for. And like if you do this if say you hypothetically trade him for Buddy Hield, like this team's already extremely weak at rebounding. Like that now moves it to we have to pick up some sort of asset there, and that changes the Simmons picture a little bit. So there's so many like moving parts that are going on there, but I do think the Kings make a lot of sense that there could be some sort of deal looming there.
Yeah, dude, I've seen a lot with the Kings, and
Mm-hmm.
like it makes so apparently as of yesterday, Buddy Hield is made available.
It's
At an
been 3 years now, but yeah,
Yeah, he's never been off the trade block, but
yeah,
apparently the Kings are still asking a hefty price for him. I don't know exactly what that means, but here's how I'm looking at it. If you're the Sixers, and again, if this the real idea here should be, you know, in this next 2-3 year window, you have to capitalize on what you have, and then you rebuild. Like, there's a rebuild looming with the Sixers. I think a lot of people are kind of still shell shocked at the way everything's gone.
I mean,
Eventually, it's gonna happen again. Like, but you have this window right now that you should
yeah,
be doing everything you can to get to that point again.
right.
So a draft pick, 2 draft picks, to me, doesn't matter. Like, if you're Daryl Morey and you're talking with the Kings, I've seen people say Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes, which, like, sign me up, first of
Absolutely,
all.
yeah,
For Harris, and, like, people are like, "Oh, they wouldn't take that, it's not enough." Give them Harris and stack them 2 picks, give them Jaden Springer, like, whatever they want to make that deal happen, you do that. And then now you're looking at it, if you can go get a DeJounte Murray and Keldon Johnson, like imagine if you got that from the Spurs. There's your freaking starting lineup. of
Mhm.
Murray Heald. Like obviously this is a really a very
Simplistic.
obscure, yeah,
Yeah.
like hypothetical, but like I feel like that's the fix you're gonna get to. If you can overvalue Tobias, you can take the value that's there with Simmons and create a really good roster, a really good starting five. And then you have specialists on this team. Like
Mhm.
Shake in a vacuum, if he has a really particular role, can be good. We just saw Matisse Thybulle. If he has a very particular role, can be good. It's where we go from there that's difficult because sometimes those guys are asked to do a little bit more, and that's where we see their flaws. But in a roster or in a starting lineup where okay, we really need, we need a really strong rebounding stretch four, and then you put Niang in. Like you
Mhm.
can do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? If there's one spot left, if you have talent elsewhere that makes up for that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with I guess, looming rebuild, but for the moment, like, I'm all in on pouring everything. I'm going down swinging with Joel Embiid, and we
Yes.
owe it to him absolutely to pour everything that we have, and I will attach whatever draft picks, even the young guys. Like, we have so many kind of like intriguing young pieces, and when we think about like the Isaiah Joe, the Shake Milton, Maxi, obviously, but he's in a little bit category of his own. Matisse kind of in there. Like there's attractive pieces that we can hook on to kind of smooth things over, get things done. And I'm ready to pour everything into whatever deal it takes to make sure that like the return to surround Embiid is exactly what it needs to be. And at the moment, this team simply lacks kind of the top end talent in their starters and closing lineups. And until that is dealt with, like it does not matter what role players you have on your team. Like the type of role players that are here can't make up for just lacking simple shot creators and guys that are just the top end that it requires to win this league. So it should be whatever it takes to get that done. Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris should absolutely both be all in on the table for that. Uh,
Yep.
and if we are stuck with Toby, like it isn't the worst thing in the world. Like there are things that I don't want to like tear him down, tear him down. There are things
Yeah.
that he's still very good at and still like
Yeah.
an above average NBA player, but I do think there's better out there on the horizon.
Yeah, I think so. And like again, I think it's not really even about Tobias. I think
It's
everyone
fit.
gets frustrated, including myself. Like I get very frustrated with him. But like he does do a lot of things well. He's a great leader, and I know we talk about this all the time. It's like great dude, confirmed good guy. We know that, and he's been really good for this organization, this city. I think he's been awesome. And like to be fair, he's had a lot of great moments here, but like it's just the his median is just not good enough. It's just not what a championship roster is contingent on. It's not nobody I don't think anyone in the league is like, we're one piece away from a championship. We really like a high volume post to mid range scorer that scores like 18 points per game. Like that's just not what the NBA is looking for right now, and that sucks for him. That sucks that is where he kind of falls. But I think it's just the hard truth to come to. And again, if he is the third, if he's a fourth option, thank God, that's great. Even if he's the third, like you can deal with that, like you said. But it's
Yeah.
really, I think at this point, like you said, I think we're coming to this conclusion as well as like there's, I think there's going to be like that rapid like flash rebuild and not like a year. I'm talking about like 2 months where they'd make a move, they make another move. Both those moves are coherent with what works with Embiid, and then they go from there. Like, and then they're trying again. Like, I think that's more of the realm that they're in now.
Yeah, and I mean, to start with, Embiid has done a tremendous job adding perimeter shooting and layers to his game like that.
Yeah,
But he absolutely is not like a stretch big by any means. Like, he's at his best when he's in the post, and he should not have to play with a guy that like limits that. Put him at his best, and anything that he provides on the perimeter and the mid range should be cake, and he still is going to do
yeah,
plenty of that as well. I've kind of given Tobias the comp of Carmelo Anthony a couple times, but when we think about like Melo, they have a very kind of similar think about like the Melo Knicks days and kind of the post, the dribble down, the face down, the fadeaways. A lot of it was the same to kind of what we see with Tobias. When you look at Melo now, like playing for the Lakers, all he does is come in and shoot threes and be like a kind of a microwave guy off the bench.
yeah,
And he's had to fully like revitalize his career to just adapt to how quickly the NBA is changing. And
yeah,
not that Tobias is getting left behind with the times, but there has to be an element of that. And I mean, like I said, the just statistically, like this guy should not be afraid to shoot 3 pointers the rate he is. And I feel like I scream a little bit every time he does the pump fake on a semi-open three and
Yeah.
drive for a contested two fadeaway post up, but it happens way too often.
Yeah, dude, that's the most the
Caught for
play,
my
I
breath.
think it was a couple of games ago, and Rivers put his hand on his head, like,
Yeah.
even he's, like, pissed off about it, so you know it's bad because, like, I feel like he's I don't know. It's definitely been a whirlwind with this team. It's they're in just a weird spot because you go from having the best win of the year to having probably, like, one of the uglier losses of the year, and it's just been that kind of bounce back and forth. A great stretch followed by a terrible stretch, and then a couple bounce back games, and then a couple games you lose pretty badly. Like, just never get the real deal with this team, it seems like. But who do they have next? They play tomorrow night?
Heat. Yeah, they play the Heat and then the
Oh,
Nets.
you said that. Okay, the
Mhm.
Heat and the Nets. So before we go, like, just how do you feel about those two? The Heat are good. What are they? 16 and 12.
Mhm.
And then the Nets obviously are very good, 19 and 8. So just give me a preview of those two games.
Yeah, I think they're gonna win tomorrow. I feel good about that. Give them a little good luck being there. I hope so. But I do think they're gonna bounce back for kind of another big win. Last night felt like one that was kind of just chalked up, and
Yeah.
I guess a little lingering after the highs from the Warriors game. And in the end, not a major concern. I do think they bounce back, and these gonna be games they take a lot more serious. I think they probably split 1-1. I'm gonna predict Heat win and Nets loss, but and I'm okay with that result. So that's my prediction going in.
Yeah, man. Katie's
Bad man.
damn good
Yeah.
still. So yeah, I think it'll probably go the similar way. I'd love to see them beat the Heat. I don't think there's anything I enjoy more, maybe the Celtics, but that team is just I'm very disgusted. I hate that. I hate the Heat so much. It like they have a real burning passion. Like, there's a few that are standing for me. The Celtics and the Heat are the two that remain. Like, even the Nets, I'm like, whatever. Like, it is what it is. They're just really good, and Katie's just really good. But they're a solid squad. Lowry, Butler, Hero has been playing well for whatever reason. Is Bam out though? Am I making that up?
Uh, I'm not sure.
Well,
He.
either way, Embiid dominates him, and Embiid, thankfully he missed last night, so he'll definitely be in the lineup tomorrow
Mhm.
for your sake at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, Morris is out, Oladipo's out, Bam Adebayo's out, thumb. He got surgery. Caleb Martin, game time decision. Jimmy Butler, game time decision.
So
So
yeah,
yeah,
I like
they have a lot of injuries there too.
Yeah. So I feel good about picking up a win tomorrow. They get back on track there. It's another good win. They're not in a bad spot as a team right now. The Sixers, like, I mean, uh, I, it is a roller coaster with this team, but we ride it out, and I think they are going to be all right. There's a lot going on. I hope the Simmons stuff is finalized relatively soon, just kind of so there's some sort of outlook. But I do really think 2.5 months from now, this team is going to be looking drastically different than it does right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really what's looming over everyone's head is that even, no matter how well or poorly they play, it seems like there's something ahead. And I
Yeah.
think we're getting to that point of it almost being there. Tomorrow's December 15th. So there could be some stuff going on tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the NBA this year. There's a lot of teams that are in bad spots trying to make it better, and other teams that are trying to rebuild. So I think not only the Sixers will be active, I think a lot of other teams will be active, which bodes well for the Sixers as well. So definitely stay in touch. We're going to be all over that stuff. I mean, do you expect anything to happen tomorrow?
Possible, but I don't think likely. I still think it's gonna be closer to the deadline before something officially happens, Simmons wise at least.
Yeah, I'm just kind of waiting on that, like, Woj bomb, Maury's traded everyone. Like, I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that could happen basically at any time. I hope I'm mentally prepared for it when it does happen. But definitely stay tuned. We're gonna be with you through it all. So follow us at PickSwap Pod. Check out the YouTube PickSwap Podcast. Get us on anywhere you get your podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple Music. Sean, if you're good to go, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, all good. Go Sixers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll catch you guys soon.